Canada, once a beacon of stability and prosperity, now stands on the brink of significant turmoil going into the 2030s.
And Trudeau's deficits will not be small. Mr. Trudeau has made tens of billions of dollars of spending promises. He said the budget will balance itself. He has no idea what he is talking about when it comes to these things. That's why you could be sure that his small deficits will become large deficits and would get Canada into the same pickle of high taxes and program cuts that we had under the last Liberal government.
Well, not only is our government hated by our population, we as a country are seen as the armpit of the G7.
Chris, there's a special place in hell for any foreign leader that engages in bad faith diplomacy with President Donald J. Trump and then tries to stab him in the back on the way out the door. And that's what bad faith Justin Trudeau did with that stunt press conference. That's what weak, dishonest Justin Trudeau did.
And despite our geopolitical advantages, like having free trade with the world's biggest economy, the US, and having oceans on either side of us for protection, Canada faces some massive internal challenges for its future, like a dwindling population.
Canada may now have an issue retaining recent arrivals. More immigrants are moving away from Canada in recent years. And data from Statistics Canada shows 15% of immigrants leave Canada within 20 years of arriving.
Skyrocketing cost of living and leadership struggles that are kind of making Canada a joke at this point.
Everything we discuss is leaked to the paper. That's not appropriate. And that's not how the way the conversation was conducted. If there is sincerity on your part,
free and open and frank dialogue, and that is what we will continue to have. We will continue to look to work constructively together, but there will be things we will disagree on, and we will have
Let's create the conditions first.
Now, often seen as America's northern twin, Canada mirrors many aspects of its neighbor, from cultural influences to shared alliance networks. Yet, this perception undermines its unique character and creates confusion about its role on the global stage. While Canada is known for progressive policies like universal healthcare and robust social safety nets, these achievements do have unintended consequences that are actually really hurting the underlying economy.
9 years of this NDP Liberal Prime Minister's taxes, debt, inflation, and promises, Canadians are hungry.
Now, as we dive into the forces shaping Canada's trajectory, we'll uncover how a vast and diverse nation may face unprecedented challenges over the next decade. Now, this potential fallout is not just a Canadian problem. It could impact the entire continent.
Valera has released its latest Rage Index survey. The pollster says that it hit a new high in April with record levels of anger among Canadians. Now, the Rage Index measures Canadians' anger or annoyance toward 6 factors: the federal government, their provincial government, the economy, personal financial situations, certain changes happening in Canada, and the latest stories that are in the news.
Now, the demographic in Canada is changing, and it's changing rapidly. Any citizen over the age of 20 has definitely noticed something massively different just over the last 3 to 4 years. Walking into grocery stores, walking into a bank, taking public transit, you can clearly see the demographic change. Now, let me be clear about something before this video continues. Canada has an immigration problem, but the problem isn't the immigrants. See, the immigrants coming here were doing what they were told. They came here legally. They were promised a better future if they come to Canada with more job opportunity, with just having a better life in general. Now, unfortunately for all these immigrants, many of them have found out that was a total lie. They are now struggling just like many other Canadians, and probably actually even worse. So the problem isn't the immigrants. They're great people on a whole. They just want a better life. They're here to work hard, and they're here to do the Canadian-American dream. The problem is the immigration. The allowance of so many people into a country all at once when we don't have the infrastructure to hold them. Our healthcare has been crap for as long as I can remember. You can go back and see articles from 2012, from 2010, from 2006, all saying we don't have enough doctors, we don't have enough nurses, we have people spilling out into the emergency room. That's been going on in Canada for as long as I can remember. And now when you add on the almost 4 million immigrants that have come from 2020 until 2025 slated, that is insane, because let's get another thing right. It's not like the 4 million immigrants are spread out across our vast land. Over 80 to 90% of the 4 million immigrants are coming into the GTA and around the GTA. Kitchener-Waterloo, Hamilton, Cambridge, Brantford, London. So when you have that many people concentrated in one area, when we already have a massive housing shortage, we have job shortages at this point in the economy, we have a healthcare shortage that is a massive crisis, you're asking for trouble. So while it's easy to pick on one specific type of person, the immigrants, and say, it's your fault, you guys shouldn't have come here, which I'm sure we can all understand the rage and the outrage, you can't blame the immigrants. You have to blame the immigration policies that allowed them to even come here. And also the lies, the propaganda the Canadian government and the Canadian schools have put on all the people. All the promises, come to Canada, come, it's a great life, there's great jobs, you can own your own home, it's going to be great. And then when they get here, they find out that's an utter lie. Now, that's the immigration crisis, and we can spend days on that alone. But let's move on to the next threat that's going to really put Canada behind over the 2030s and beyond. And that is its reliance on natural resources, which can be a very good thing, but right now, it's a bad thing.
Trudeau and Jagmeet Singh prefer to see tankers come right across the Atlantic to pump foreign oil into our economy. It's not that Trudeau is against oil. It's that he's in favor of overseas oil that come from faraway dictatorships. I believe that we should support Canadian energy, that we should use the proceeds of that energy to become greener and more advanced still, and to benefit our people.
Look, Canada is the 4th largest oil producer on the planet and the 3rd largest producer of natural gas on the planet. But here's the thing. We're not milking it for what it should be. See, under this leadership, under the Trudeau government, he is stifling the growth in these sectors over a climate change and a World Economic Forum view of the world. See, this is the argument that a conservative government, a Pierre Poilievre specifically government, is saying that we should do. While Canada is the 4th largest oil producer, we should be the 2nd, possibly the 1st. There is more oil in Canada than anywhere in the world, more than the Middle East, more than Texas in the United States, more than everywhere. Canada has the most oil under the ground. The problem is, it's hard to get, it's hard to drill. So, what Pierre Poilievre is saying, we should be innovating this industry and using it for all it's worth, because don't get it twisted. The Canadian economy relies on oil. If you follow the data and you follow the growth of Canada, the GDP growth, the GDP per capita growth, it almost exactly correlates to the price of oil. And it has done that for decades. When oil is doing good, Canada's doing good. When oil is doing bad, Canada's doing bad. It's not the housing market. It's not manufacturing with Ford and GM and big companies like Loblaws. They don't matter. It's oil. Don't get it twisted. Canada is an oil nation. And here's the argument if you're on the left thinking, well, good. We shouldn't be doing oil. We should be innovating in wind and solar and nuclear energy, more cleaner energies. Oil is dirty. Oil is bad. Oil is climate change. Well, here's the thing. Canada has one of the cleanest oil technologies on how to extract the oil. We have the cleanest oil on the earth. So by us not producing oil, by not being the world's biggest market share, countries are going to get oil from other people. And they're going to get dirty oil from the Middle East and Kuwait and all these areas that don't have labor laws. They don't have environmental laws or policies. They don't give a shit. They're just pumping chemicals and fossil fuels and methane all into the air. No regulations. It doesn't matter because over there, they just care about profit. Pump that oil. Let's make Dubai the richest place on earth. Canada could be the next Dubai. You think Toronto's impressive with the CN Tower? We could literally be the next Dubai. So the argument is we need to innovate in this sector and make oil better and convince the rest of the world to buy our clean oil, which is going to be an easy trade. Every country is going to want to buy our clean oil, totally dismantling the Middle East oil, taking market share, making Canada the richest country on earth, as Pierre Poilievre always says. Now, that seems like a nice little political slogan, and it sounds good, but it could literally be the truth. When the Keystone Pipeline XL contract got slashed, that was one of the worst things to ever happen to Canada. Canada was set up to just rake it in. And it still doesn't make sense to me because pumping oil that way is cleaner. Right now, we're moving oil on train carts at a high risk of falling over and causing spills and damages. Pumping oil in a brand new underground pipeline is cleaner, faster, and more efficient, and actually burns less fossil fuel and pollution. It's outrageous. But it all comes down to weak leadership. See, Trudeau, I'm assuming must have, didn't fight to get that contract through. In fact, he was on the side of not putting it through. He didn't care. He wanted to see it gone. Unreal. Again, the world and all these countries, Russia, the Middle East, China, all these developing nations especially, they don't care. They're going to get oil from whoever, from where it's cheapest. They don't care about where it came from. They don't care about the regulations used, the labor laws, where it came from. They don't care. They're going to buy oil. The argument is they might as well buy our oil. Canada should become the leader in oil production and sell our clean oil, making Canada one of the richest countries on earth, especially into the 2030s. But right now, that ain't going to happen. Now, moving on to economic concerns, our job market is really not growing. Our GDP per capita growth is actually going negative. Canada isn't producing jobs. Why? We're not innovating. And why is that? We're not a competitive country. See, guys, it's all about the money. Now, as a business owner, as an entrepreneur myself, as a real estate investor who's purchased over 150 properties and has a real estate business, I myself and many other large investors across Canada are no longer investing in Canada. We're not building anymore. We're not producing rental properties. We're not doing anything. Why? Taxes are way too high and regulations are way too hard. We can't do anything. Tenants rule the land. They make all the rules. Makes no sense. Why would I, as a business owner, put up all this money, all this risk into buying a house, having a mortgage in my name, and a tenant who can stay there for 12 to 14 months easily without paying rent before being evicted? That's going to dismantle and crush any small-time landlord from growing and doing the American dream and chasing the next. There is no next in Canada. Why would you? You're paying 54% taxes if you make over $224,000 a year. Where's the incentive to grow, which will benefit the economy? I can talk about this for hours. In fact, I do. But the real problem is people like myself and bigger companies. I'm just a little guy. Imagine all the big companies, Google, Meta, Amazon, all these companies who could build more in our country. They're staying put in America. Why? It's more competitive. Lower tax rates, the real estate industry. If you want to be a landlord, it's way easier. If you own the home, you make the rules. Oh, what a concept. What other industry where someone provides a service, the customer makes all the rules? Try not to pay your phone bill. Rogers, Bell, cutting that off. Try not to pay your car payment on your Ford F-150. Ford is taking your truck. They make the rules. You didn't pay, I'm taking the truck. But in real estate, if the tenant doesn't pay, they can stay. There's no rules. What's the incentivization for anybody else to invest and provide housing? Which I don't know if you know, we're in a massive housing shortage. We have no supply. You would think, as a smart leader of the government, you would think we have a huge housing shortage. Taxes are really high. Nobody wants to invest in my country. What should I do? How about fucking lower the taxes and make regulation easier and simpler? How about put pressure on the provinces to amend their landlord-tenant board acts? And if they don't, force it and make it so. Why? We're losing business to Florida, to Georgia, to Tennessee, to Texas. I can tell you this. I'm in the industry. And not to be too narcissistic, I'm pretty high up in the industry in Canada. Believe it or not, I'm kind of considered a big boy, and I'm not. I'm just a small fish. But in Canada, I've done a lot. I know all the big investors in Canada. They're all leaving. Now, if you're a super lefty watching this video, you're thinking, good, get out of here, landlord. Don't come back. Who the fuck do you think is making the houses? Who the fuck do you think is going to rent your house? If there's no landlords, there's no houses. If there's no houses, prices go up. It's supply and demand. It's economics 101. But you got fucking morons in government and even bigger morons voting for that government who don't understand. They just think houses grow on trees. They just think the government's going to provide houses. Huh? How's that working? Have you ever walked through Ontario housing? Have you ever walked through Alberta housing? It's awful. They don't know what they're doing, which is why they're supposed to leave it to the private sector to provide houses. And last but not least, the reason it's going to hold back Canada over the 2030s is our military and how womp womp it is.
If what you have been doing for decades is no longer working for you, you can't just keep doing it. And over the past 3 years, more people have left than have entered. That is frankly, it's a death spiral for the Canadian Armed Forces. We cannot afford to continue on that pace. We've got to do something differently.
Don't get me wrong. I'm a patriot. I love those who serve. Canada has a strong military. We have top of the world training. The problem is it's just small, like really small. We have highly skilled, trained people in our armed forces. It's just small, and they don't have the equipment they need. They have outdated, old, beat-up equipment. I mean, it's already come out that the U.S. is very angry with Canada for not meeting our NATO deadline.
You know, the truth is that I called him out on the fact that he's not paying 2%, and I guess he's not very happy about it. He's not paying 2%, and he should be paying 2%. It's Canada, they have money, and they should be paying 2%. So I called him out on that, and I'm sure he wasn't happy about it, but that's the way it is. Look, I'm representing the U.S., and he should be paying more than he's paying, and he understands it.
We're supposed to be spending 2% of our annual GDP towards the NATO budget, towards our armed forces. We're not. We're spending approximately 1.3% of our GDP. We're underspending. We're underfunding. We're not giving the armed forces what they need. So if and when something ever happens, we're sending our people without the right resources. And worse yet, we're just relying on Uncle Sam to take care of us, which is disgusting. We should be fair partners with the U.S., our biggest ally. We're not picking up the slack. We're having them take care of us. And they're getting pissed. They're not happy about it. Look, right now, as I'm making this video, there was just a massive stock market crash actually a couple days ago. The biggest since 2020, since COVID. Just happened. We're going to be in a rough ride for a little while longer. And what I think right now truly is a great reset. Again, we just had a great reset over the pandemic. There was a massive wealth transfer. The haves got more. Why? Inflation increased asset prices. Now, I'm not talking about the haves like this Illuminati top elite. Obviously, they did benefit from all of that. I'm talking about people, middle class and upper middle class people who owned homes. Maybe they owned a second home. Maybe they owned stocks. You know, people slightly better than average that had assets. They benefited massively from that pandemic wealth transfer, from the inflation. It's happening again. It's round 2. And it happens all the time, by the way. But this is going to be a big one. See, what just happened in COVID, I think, is going to happen again. It's going to look different. It might not be the exact same, but that same concept is going to happen again. The haves are going to get more. If you own your own home, if you own many homes, which is what I think you should do, like myself, if you own stocks, if you own crypto, you're going to get wealthier. If you don't own those things, which an increasing amount of our population is in that category, they can barely afford their rent or mortgage. Investing, yeah, right. With what? They have nothing left over. They have mountains of debt, student loan debt, car debts, credit card debt. If you're in that camp and you're not ready, you're going to get clobbered even harder. If you know how to do business, if you understand how the world works, if you understand stock markets, real estate markets, you're going to do super well over the next 5 to 10 years. That's what I truly believe. I've already done it like 2 times in my life. I've ridden 2 cycles. I'm about to ride the next one, catching the next wave. And it's all the same strategies. Own assets in quality good areas, own good quality stuff, hold it, and you're going to make a ton of money. If you're not, you're going to get fucked. Let me know all your thoughts in the comments below. I'll see you in the next video.